in a conspiracy pod right now, and we're actually thinking we just want your thoughts on blah blah blah.
Floppy wiener.
The floppy wiener conspiracy.
Yeah. What is the
where do you
floppiest
stand?
wiener in the government right now?
Dude.
Who?
Yeah.
I think it's AOC personally.
She does deserve it. Yeah.
Got a big old floppy one.
She was in the Twitter news today because she was trying to be outed by someone that she had some sort of burner account that she was doing a lot of hateful like tweets from, and but
I mean, good for her. I don't, I'm never opposed to anybody trolling anyone else. So that's just me. But
that's if you're trolling,
and trolls be trolling, dude.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of shit going on right now, modern day. This is about 5 weeks out, but if you're listening, Trump is getting extradited tomorrow. It's a crazy time. There's conspiracy theories going on about that. I'm sure there'll be more in the weeks to come. We might have to pop in and do some of that. But for today, we are here with the theory of conspiracy with Rolando and Michael. And we're going to be talking about movies about conspiracy theories that ended up maybe even being like real. And so it's like kind of like those MK Ultra. Oh, of course we didn't do that. We didn't do that. We didn't do that. And then you find out it's declassified later that they in fact did do that. So I have some of these films that, at the time when you're seeing them, you might not think that they're totally valid or, oh, that's a very
good ideas.
Type. Yeah.
Are there some that inspired what you're gonna? That the movie, let's say it was a James Bond villain that was like, I'm going to block out the sun. And then someone had a plot that was, hey, we're going to block out the sun like this guy did. Is that what you're...
So there are some that the jury's still out on some of these conspiracies. There are some that, that actually happened. Like, okay, the conspiracy theory movie happened. You find out that, that in fact really happened, after the fact. There's some that just have still active, conspiracy theories that are ongoing right now that haven't been proved or disproved.
Well, conspiracy theory just has to be more than like one person working together in unison doing some crazy stuff. So I can totally see two people watching the movie and being like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Let's do that to the country.
I'm just going to start off with the one that kind of encapsulates our show, conspiracy theory. With
Julia Roberts and Mel Gibson.
You've seen that one, right?
Yeah, it has
it's like a fun 90s movie. Yeah.
I love you, baby. Frankie Valli.
Yep.
The Lauryn Hill version. Yeah. So if you know the Lauryn Hill, you're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of. That was a conspiracy theory.
You have a voice of an angel.
I love you, baby.
You have a voice of an angel, by the way. Appreciate it. I just appreciate you serenading me right now.
I was just inspired by the conspiracy theory, and I guess inspired by something I got to do again after not being able to do it for a while. But hey,
so Mel Gibson, right? He uses a newsletter. He's on a printing press to send out to his mailing list all of his conspiracies. And the movie opens up. He's a cabbie. He's like telling all the people that'll listen to him that get into his cab like all these different conspiracies about the JFK shooting, MK Ultra. I mean, there's a plethora of these that, we get into with him. And basically what it is that Julia Roberts is like kind of trying to get to the bottom of it and figure out, they're trying to make this guy a patsy and think he's crazy and all that stuff. And it ends up, spoiler alert, guys, this movie's been out for a long time, that, he was part of a CIA program and that he was, brainwashed and he did have some insight to some of these, things these goings ons. But the one that was really that got him in trouble, right? Because they're just like, oh, let him talk about it. Let him send out his newsletter. He's not hurting anybody. Was he made the connection that there was a weather control system in place that was weaponized. And it was used for an assassination for like a South American leader. So that's why the government is going after Mel Gibson. And that's why, Julia Roberts, she's one of the people that, kind of met with him and like was trying to like be a helpful person in his life. And she doesn't know if he's crazy or if there's something to it. But as the movie goes on, that unfolds, right? and they create and bond
I
in
had
their
to rewatch
relationship.
that one. Yeah, the weather machines and all that. I think wasn't Professor X the villain in that? Wasn't it
Yeah, yeah. It was
Patrick Stewart?
Patrick
Oh,
Stewart.
Patrick Stewart coming at you.
He was like the deep throat
The
guy.
CIA.
Yeah,
Well,
like
was
he
he
wasn't
trying
deep
to
throat.
work
He
with him
was
at first? Maybe he was like, "Hey, I'm your friend," but then he's like, "We're the CIA. We always have an
a lot of
angle."
gaslighting, right? You know, hey, you're he would tell the doctors that, oh, he was one of my patients,
It was the
and
antagonist
he's the
of the
antagonist. Yeah, he's
he's the
it was one of the
CIA.
few roles that he played the bad guy, which was really good. So the one that really stuck out to me in this one was the controlling of the weather, right? And that the like Marjorie Taylor Greene always used to come out and say that, a certain group of people control the weather and whatnot, yeah, I don't know about that one, but
About controlling the weather.
yeah, let's hear about controlling the weather. Do you know anything about
Controlling
controlling
the
the weather?
weather.
Yeah.
So I know that there's this one event that I could go to. It happened maybe in like the 40s to 20s era where I forgot what country it was, but basically they didn't want it to rain over the festivities, and there was a bunch of clouds gathering. So they actually flew over it. They dumped some cement type things in there, dispersed the clouds, and poof, happy Olympics of whatever country this was. So as far back as that time, they did have a way to control the weather, but as far as weaponizing it, I think we should be at that point at now where I think they could probably weaponize it. If I can get a drone of kites with keys on them and just chase people, I weaponize the weather.
I said that was some Benjamin Franklin shit, man, and he was a Freemason. So, I mean, I don't think that
So that's just
he
my
obviously
I'm just
has.
I'm just riffing it as far as weaponizing the weather, but
Let's.
I
It's
believe
gonna
you
be a riff
can.
episode. It's
But
gonna
as
be a
far
riff
as that,
episode.
so
It's
what was the okay? So you're saying that the movie inspired the weapon? Yeah, I mean I don't know if conspiracy because that's only going back as far as the
well,
90s when conspiracy theory, but like weaponizing weather, yeah, I think that's been sort of a theory in the like how powerful would that be? If we're
oh,
if
of
we're
course,
if we're like the other X-Men, if we're like Storm and we can control the
sure.
weather goddess stuff. But there have been there's a HARP, right? Have you ever heard of the HARP thing,
I
which
have
can be
not.
an
What?
episode? It's like high altitude blah 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 radio something. I don't know. What does HARP stand for? But it's basically a thing that conspiracy theorists talk. It's like antennas, these giant antennas that are in Alaska that they believe can control weather and make dimensional vortexes to other dimensions or something. But who knows what they believe? But there's what is it called? The High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. I'm sure you've heard of HARP.
I haven't. But
That's a thing.
it's a good acronym.
Got to give them points on
Right.
the name for sure. But because of that great name, that's a project that a lot of conspiracy theorists cling to when they claim that there's weaponizing weather. And I actually saw a video, and I would say it's on the debunked side. It was this video? You know how people? I always tell my girl when she sees things on the internet to just not believe it. Like it can be you don't know the context of anything, which completely changes what it is. And just because there's captions on there doesn't make it like become this thing. It's like it doesn't become that. So you have to be careful with that. But this was just some water that was raising rapidly on Twitter, like a little video,
Mm-hmm.
and they were saying this is high frequency active auroral impacting the river, and it's like, oh, maybe, but it could also just be like the end of a waterfall, and it just because we don't know because you have no context because you only have
Yeah,
a
there
little
was no wide shot.
there's no wide. Yeah, I need two angles.
Give me two people.
Where
I
are the
really, I really,
sauces?
I really
Where are
want
the
you to prove this
sauces?
shit. I
Yeah,
want to prove this shit right.
right.
But yeah. So it's with this. So to bring it back, I mean, it was a catch-all for all of these conspiracy theories that we're really talking about now, and it was actually a good interlude before the internet to get some. I went and saw this in the theaters because I was in the conspiracy. JFK at the time. I was into all that stuff, right? So I went and saw this and wrote them down as they came along, and then did some research and
As he mentioned them, as Mel Gibson like
as
names
he
dropped
was
the conspiracy,
mumbling.
like
Yeah, I'm like MK
yeah.
Ultra. Got to look up that one. Okay, we got
Imagine
to look
getting in
up.
that taxi cab.
I
No
know,
wonder
right?
he has a newsletter. That's how he'd get his followers. They'd be locked in the car with him
I
as he took
Yeah,
places.
what are you gonna do except for listen? You know
He's
what I'm
like, "I'll
saying?
subscribe. It's
Yeah,
free, or is it a couple
right.
cents?"
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. You know, it's free, man.
There's
It's
worse newsletters you could subscribe to.
dude. I always promote while I'm in the car driving a taxi. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Well, so yeah, so that we could tie that to HARP, right? So the HARP conspiracy. So this does tie to things that are allegedly out there that are still talked about. Chemtrails. I don't know if that's
yeah, I
mentioned
was
in the
gonna
movie.
I was gonna
That's
bring up
that's the thing that they
chemtrails.
connect to.
Yep. They do mention chemtrails, and so what ends up happening is that uh they it gets back into that CIA thing that we've talked about where there very well might be different organizations within the organization, right?
Right,
So
right.
so what ends up happening is that the good CIA guys come in and save Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts from Professor X.
Do they have
And
any
that
good actors playing that side? The good CIA?
not totally memorable.
I
But
don't
then
even.
again, I haven't, I wasn't really paying attention too much to it. But
Yeah.
that was one that really kind of stuck out in my head, and I think it's a good example of mainstream media, bringing these conspiracy theories up. Now you would never kind of see it because everyone is just like so
Shrunk it.
tired of you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're trying to
squash
shrink
it down a little bit, right?
it. Mhm.
But
That was a fun movie about a.
it was a fun movie. So
Because
if you
at
guys
the end of it, Mel Gibson was kind of crazy, but he was kind of telling the truth, and then he still kind of gets with the girl, and it's like, and you're like, Julia, you got a
yeah, no,
horse.
yeah.
I remember how it ended. It ended with Lauryn Hill. She was riding on her horse. It's like, girl, do you want to get this? I know he's crazy, only halfway crazy, but
But I mean,
he's
he
broken,
was
girl.
crazy like a fox. He left the little
Yeah,
pin on her little horse
I mean, he
saddle to
did.
let him know that he was alive still.
That's
He's
true.
crazy.
Oh yeah, he was living with
Yeah,
undercover agents. So I remember that part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, watch.
He was such a wealth of knowledge. They couldn't let him go, but they weren't gonna, you
They were
know.
all creeps. So
Yeah,
the good CIA agents were like they're creeping Mel Gibson on Julie Roberts' farm
right.
to watch. It's kind of
So
like,
yeah, they go here. They drove him past. They made it all happy. Like they drove him past, and we're like, oh
yeah,
yeah,
this is a good ending.
she's
Not
really happy.
creepy at
She's on
all.
her horse. We're gonna drive you past just to make sure. And then what they did when they cut to the after she saw the pin and smiled, cameras cut, and the CIA goes, if you tell anybody any of this ever again, we're gonna shoot her right in the fucking face. That's exactly.
And that's when he starts singing, "You're just too good to be true." And then they all start singing it.
That was the
That's
alternate.
no, that's how it ends. That's seriously how it ends. He
Right.
starts singing the song, and then they all start singing the song, and then Lauryn Hill comes on. You're like, "Oh, it's a remix. This is awesome!" But then it's basically they just said, "Fuck
Well,
again, we'll shoot in the face." We
no,
should
that
have.
was yeah. They didn't say that was in the director's cut. That wasn't in the theatrical version.
Oh, it's implied if the CIA were
No,
there.
I mean if I got that context from it. So wag the dog. All right. The reason why I picked this one is because a lot of similarities with conspiracies that I'm not going to say are true right now, but conspiracies that are out there right now that the Ukraine Russian war is just a front to
Yeah,
kind of
use it as a distraction.
the distraction, like political theater, stuff like that. And that's exactly what Wag the Dog is about, right? So basically, what happens is the CIA and the President of the United States go to Dustin Hoffman, and Robert De Niro is like the spy, like the spook, right? And he goes and he works along Dustin Hoffman, who is like a famous director, and they basically manufacture and film key elements of a war so that they can feed it to the people to basically rebel rouse and get we stand with America and
Yeah, I mean, and I think to win re-election, and I think just to unify the people, how conflicts can be manufactured, and the media can be manipulated into creating a false reality, which is very much what we're connected to today. Like not even in the war front, but just social media in general. Like so many pictures aren't quite what they seem to be. Just it could even be someone, ooh, I'm enjoying a good time in a swimming pool, except you're not. You're doing a just weird things that people try to dress up and sort of deceive people in their own way, but it's manufactured. And with war efforts, yeah, with has been connected to the Ukraine Russia conflict about events that may not have been what they've been um, that they've been presented on the news as, where they're
Sure.
just
So I think what they did here was really genius in the sense that, we hear stories that come out from Vietnam now that are becoming declassified, right? Or we see movies, or we hear stories, and there are war heroes, right? And they basically, this is how it went down. He said, he saved this many people, this blah blah blah, and then you come to find that that's not how the story went, right? Where it was maybe a mix up, and it was friendly fire, and they, to cover that up, they make a war story out of it, so that they, the atrocity of war in general is so much to begin with, but you add negligence by your government into that, and it really becomes like a slippery slope, and you want
yeah.
people to support the war drum, if you will, but at the same time you got to keep that machine well oiled, and have glorious stories coming out of it. So that's what
Well,
this movie
there's
kind of
yeah,
did.
there's
Is
been friendly fire between countries that have
sure.
been used to help kickstart wars. So yeah, it's definitely something that we can point to there. But I
Yeah,
digress.
yeah. So yeah, no digression at all, my friend. That's exactly what they're talking about. So a brief synopsis of it: Dustin Hoffman gets contacted by Robert De Niro to create a thing. They get involved with like a bunch of creatives. They need a war hero. Woody Harrelson, his dad shot JFK. Just from a previous episode, if you haven't been listening, that's not proven, but that's a theory. But
I don't remember that. So they get him to play the war hero
yeah,
character.
so Woody Harrelson plays the war hero character, but he is and it's because of his name and because of his location, or whatever the case may be. What they come to find is that they make this war hero out of like somebody who's deranged, right? Like he's like going around, and he attacks like a farmer's daughter. The farmer shoots him. So then they make the story, so he was a war hero, but he was killed in the line of duty, right? And so from that, it really kind of rebel rouses and gets everybody, behind the war effort, and like we've all been, you know what I mean, at one point or
Mhm.
another. I don't know if you remember Desert Storm when we were in first grade, just to age ourselves, but I remember pins and patriotic, pins and T-shirts, and everybody was wearing that shit. Yeah.
So, and it's never as black and white as good guy, bad guy, and some country or some group was acting with just maliciousness in their heart. Usually, they're the good guy in their own story, and it's just however,
And
history, whoever gets to frame that.
yeah, and I mean, and you know, God bless the troops and all that. Like all these people that are fighting for our country, like I'm one that supports them. That being said, I don't want to see frivolous, battles and loss of men over some real, just you know fake shit. You know what I mean? So that's really where I stand with it. That movie is a perfect example of, maybe not to the degree that they did it in the movie. Of course, it was a movie. They were over the top. They created a whole war out of nothing. But the idea of looking at the different perspectives and realize that it is a tool for these politicians to run on and to get reelected. And so, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there are? Do you think that Ukraine and Russia is a fake front, like some of these people say it is? Do you think that maybe it isn't, but like maybe some of the things get exaggerated? Like to what
Oh yeah,
degree
for
do you
sure.
think, to what degree, I guess, is your
Yeah,
opinion? And I'll give you mine too. But
yeah.
to what degree is this film accurate, you would feel?
Accurate? Well, I definitely feel it's a real conflict, but I think it's portrayed differently because of who the country's siding with, and even there's been events that have come out from that have been like staged incidents, or there was a incident with some Ukraine event where there was a bunch of dead bodies, except they weren't dead, they were just posing there, and like one of the bodies moved, and some like just things like that. Those incidents where they're just trying to garner sympathy, and that's kind of the way that one would fight, you would think, like, just like in, old war country setting where you would have people shooting, not deciding to stand in formation and just shoot the next soldier. They'd be like, "No, we're gonna hide in bushes and trees, and we're gonna shoot the generals." And they're like, "You're not supposed to shoot the generals because that's not respectful in war." And I was like, "Well, it's war." So, with social media, why wouldn't you weaponize it, right? Like, why wouldn't you try to to perception is reality, the people to your cause. So that's just something that all sides are doing, and I know they're doing it because you should be doing it, because why wouldn't you do it to, it's a weapon.
Right. No, I mean, and that's kind
Is
of
it
my
right? No, they're dicks for it, but and I think that's why you got to be smarter than the average bear when you see things where you have to look for people, the dead bodies that move. You got to look at how is this piece of information trying to manipulate me? What do they get from this? What do they want from this? So
sure. I wouldn't even go into the extent that like maybe stuff is even staged. I would just say that the way that it's used to it, that theme in the film, the way that it's war is used as a political tool, isn't really even a conspiracy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
right.
just
Yeah, it was
it's
like that's what we've shown since that time, right? Where we can kind of joke about it, but now we just see like that just kind of real. That's not really even like a parody. That's not even comedy. That just sort of
just the way that it goes.
yeah,
With the
the
internet, you kind
entertaining
of
way it
just
goes.
see, yeah, you just see the different perspectives and stuff like that. And I'm
Mm.
not saying that any of these, like Putin is a piece of shit. He's definitely a piece of shit. He doesn't have America's best interest in mind. Like, it's not like I'm saying this as like someone that is anti-American. I'm saying this as like, we know what's up. Like you both have your side, you both have your spin,
And they're both weaponizing it
and you're
because
both you weaponize it.
you kind
Right.
of have to, because if you don't, then
Yeah.
people will only see, they believe what they see. So if they see the other one and you don't censor the information and create what you want them to see, then you're
Right.
losing the minds of the masses, man.
We want the masses here over at the Theory of Conspiracy. We
So
want
that's a theory I think we can all, the conspiracy.
we can all
Yeah,
try to get
that's what's
conspiracy.
happening, is that we're all trying to. Am,
Right.
am I conspiracy theorying like a family vacation? If I'm like, hey, we're gonna do mock summer photos next to the pool, but don't you dare go in there. And then like, the photo shoot wraps up and you're like, all right, kids, we're leaving now. It's like, wait, what? Like that
Yeah.
happens in like the Kardashian families. They stage these
Yeah, the
scenes.
perceptions are people's reality. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
It
so
doesn't mean that nothing is happening. It means that what you're seeing is manufactured. We're gonna go back to JFK, okay?
the
So
movie, the Kevin
yeah,
Costner.
JFK the movie. Now we've already. I'm not gonna get too much into this, but yeah, JFK is an actual conspiracy theory that still exists, and a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, do not believe that Oswald was the primary alone shooter in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I would
I
bet, I don't know the facts. I'm talking strictly out of my ass, but a safe bet for me would say that most people don't believe he acted alone.
And I think that movie did a good job of probably stealing the hearts and minds of men and women of it, because it's an Academy Award winning movie, right? I have to assume
Yeah.
like that was very successful. So I think people still remember back into the left, where that's almost like a tagline that's been ingrained in people when they think of JFK. Was it was a true conspiracy theory. It wasn't quite what they told us, because if Oswald was back there, how did his head go back into the left? And they have
Right.
Kevin Costner saying that in that scene. It's been
Yeah, and
parodied.
yeah, exactly. Kevin Costner's, whispering sweet nothings into our mother's ears via the silver screen. They're going to start believing it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Back into the left, back into the left, back into the left,
Yeah,
and that's all. And then we got a generation of
the people
of
who are like,
were brought up on it.
yep.
So
So good
back
job,
into
Oliver. Good job.
good job, Oliver Stone. This one you're going to love, and this one I think we should just kind of lean into a little bit. And I'm gonna give you a couple keywords, and I want you to guess. Sunglasses, WWF before WWE, and carpentry. Can you guess it?
Sunglasses, WWE.
Billboards.
Wow.
They live.
Oh, Roddy Piper.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't want to.
Why? Why?
If I said Roddy Piper, you would have got it right away. I wanted to make it a little difficult
Mhm.
for you.
I
So
think it
they
just,
live with
yeah,
Roddy Piper.
WWE. Okay. Great movie.
Great movie, John Carpenter.
Yep.
So you can, I mean, if you think
Yeah,
about it, that's a conspiracy theory.
but
That
did something come out of that movie that is still kind of like they talked about it? I guess it's subliminal, right? The subliminal advertising. They did have drones in that movie. When you put on the sunglasses,
so
there was,
the shape shifting reptilian
yeah.
lizards. They look like skeletons and they live, but if you think about it, like all of that shit were like, oh, the Bushes
Mhm.
and the Clintons and the,
The
are
blue
all
bloods.
yeah, the blue bloods of England are all reptilian shapeshifters.
And
That's
there
that's
has
kind
been a
of
lot.
the
Yeah,
of they
it's
live.
it's an idea that hasn't really gone away, and it's been sort of more, now that we think we're being visited, right? They think
Hmm.
they may not just be in the skies. What if they're among us? What if they're wearing our skin and we like, who knows? But it was an interesting idea, especially through the lens of Roddy Piper, who's gonna who came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum.
That is one of the best lines in the film. What was the other one where he's like, "You ugly bitch," when he's talking to the
Probably
lady.
said
He puts
that.
on the glasses like, "Oh, you're one ugly bitch." And he's talking about the lady. He's like, "Oh my goodness!" And but you can see that she's like an alien face after he puts on the sunglasses. So for those who don't see it, I'm not going to ruin this movie because you should all just go out and watch it. It was 1988. John Carpenter's They Live. It's a bunch of working class people trying to get by in a major metropolitan area.
Yeah, the
Um,
economy's bad,
the
and
economy's bad, but
people are living in, like, homeless tents, and then
there's
it's
also people living in skyscrapers.
mhm.
It's I don't know. It's kind of the more I describe it, the more it's kind of reminded me of kind of a modern day,
Yeah, we have
situation that we got going on here, where the
tent
haves are
cities.
getting more
Yeah,
and the have-nots are getting less. Tent
mhm,
cities.
the elite parties that they would have in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who are trying to get their guns together, and probably the aliens who are trying to take their guns, and right, and that's what people kind of believe
Mm-hmm.
now. So
So
yeah,
they had sunglasses. My whole thing with this movie it's an amazing movie. Why would the aliens make the sunglasses so that the humans can see who's an alien or not? You know what I mean? Like I just never. Why would they put something out there that would allow people to see what is actually happening? So you put on the sunglasses and all the
well,
billboards, all the advertising,
yeah.
all the TV commercials are now these alien actors
Maybe
and
it
these.
wasn't made by them, but maybe it was made by someone who, because
Okay.
they did work with some humans that were sort of propping up these systems, and they could have been doing it for a long time. So they could have reverse engineered this technology versus
Okay.
it could be a rogue, or like a Rogue One Star Wars like scientist guy who's we never quite got the They Live sequel. I would have loved to have a whole cinematic universe of They Live, because John Carpenter movies are great. Like, he has so many that are just like, I want 20 more of them, but that one is definitely,
Did John Carpenter do The Thing?
yes,
They just
one of the
remade it,
greatest
dude.
movies.
They just
Oh,
remade
yeah, it
it.
wasn't that good, but the They Live from the '80s still stands up to this day.
Yeah. No,
One
it's
of
a
the
great.
greatest sci-fi movies, horror movies, Antarctica or whatever it is, Antarctica ice movies, snow movies,
Yeah,
classic. And the more recent one does not stand up already. It's already dated, where the CGI isn't as quite as great as what they built for that movie.
sure, sure.
But yeah, They Live, it does have, yeah, they also had cool little portals, and they were traveling to their star system. There was a lot that was hinted at in They Live, but it was
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I didn't even get into that. I didn't even know how deep you wanted to go into this movie, but let's fuck it. Let's just get into They Live, okay? They had Stargates in They Live. They had subliminal television programming in They Live, which
mhm.
is kind of what we're talking about today.
They had
In a very
they were in positions of power where they were already influencing the media. They were hosts, they were journalists, they were politicians, and they were infiltrating it because there was still that human element, and who knew how much of it was controlled versus they're still infiltrating. But it was deep. It was a pretty deep movie.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the human alien, and there were some that yeah, there was it was a bunch of secret handshake shit. There was a bunch of stuff in that movie that was really really cool, and I mean, I just remember growing up watching it and just man, it was freaking awesome, and it was one of the best fights in the world too, between
Yeah,
him and his friend. It wasn't even against an alien. It was just like two buddies are like, no, fuck you, no, fuck you,
they
and then
were
they fight
fighting
for
for
15 minutes.
put on these sunglasses, like, hell no. And it's like,
I'm not gonna put on your
your ass
sunglasses.
suplex you in this parking lot, put on these sunglasses. And they do, and it's
Yeah.
like an awesome fight.
Yeah, and putting over
So,
sunglasses. It's yeah, it was just such a really out there, cool
mhm.
movie, and it has so many conspiracies in it. So I thought it was fun. This is going to be the last one because we're kind of running a little short on time, but we should maybe do a part 2 of this because this was a fun episode. But I would say the Manchurian Candidate. You ever seen that one? Either with Frank Sinatra or Denzel Washington. One of the two.
Bits of both. I don't remember seeing either one completely through. I know what it's about. Frank Sinatra, yeah. Denzel, brainwashed, like assassin type. But.
Yeah. It's just like an MK. Yeah. So basically, they have a handler. The handler happens to be his mother. In the thing, he's an ex-military guy. And he goes into these deep trances and he's trying to figure out why he's getting these headaches and why, he's remembering or seeing things in his dreams that don't make sense, right? That he doesn't remember actually, doing in his day-to-day life. Well, you come to find that he was basically brainwashed by the government to assassinate a presidential candidate, right? And so that was the Manchurian Candidate, and there was a secret word that, that if it was told to him, then he would just go into a trance and then go kill the president. So that's really, well, unless, if I'm sure there's some theories with JFK, but we haven't really gone down that deep in that rabbit hole. Just topical. Check out our JFK episode if you want to hear about all those. But it kind of reminded me of MK Ultra a little bit, right? Like you have this like secret assassin group, mind control, sleeper cell,
torture,
type of situation.
Drug,
Torture,
brainwash, secret code words that
LSD,
that trance-like state, easy to control, and that you can have a patsy who doesn't remember doing it, or someone that can.
That was the deal.
And get back into it.
Again, right. That was that. Yeah. That. So that was the thing. So like they would take the shot and then they would come out of it and be like, I don't remember any of that, but everyone witnessed them do it. That was the reasoning behind why they wanted to make this like real active shooter patsy. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, that theory is connected with JFK, but it's very prevalent with his brother Bobby, who got assassinated. That they say that the guy who did it was like a brainwash sort of assassin, and that like that could be an episode too, because that was a weird like how that sort of went down. But yeah, Ruby, Oswald, that they may have been mind controlled or something. The guy who did the Bobby Kennedy, I think the Martin Luther King assassin. But yes, this idea, MK Ultra, the Manson family, right? There's some connections with that.
Sure.
That he may have been trained by the government, and that he created these sort of, he was kind of not just, this is where the, I guess, super soldier creates like an army of little like
sleeper cells or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So I actually just got done rewatching Mindhunter. I don't know if you've ever seen that on Netflix. That was a pretty decent show if you haven't seen it. But it's about the profilers of the FBI. And they talked to Charles Manson, and they basically said that he was there was a combination where he was with someone that was kind of like put in place by the government, and he looked at himself as like the Messiah, like the religious leader. So he took the playbook from that guy, and then what he learned from the CIA, supposedly, this is a Charles Manson conspiracy, and combining both of those, that's how he did his thing, like basically what you're saying. But there was someone before him that the CIA had put into place to like control religious zealots, as well. So that was interesting. And then he kind of touch upon that in that as well. Can you think of any movies real quick off the top of your head that maybe had a conspiracy theory that really kind of...
You mentioned that train one. I didn't see it, but it has to do with the train disaster that just happened in East Palestine, Ohio.
Yes,
on Netflix.
yes.
But I'm like, Netflix sucks. I ain't wasting my time getting this.
Well, apparently the train company and Netflix are owned by the same parent company as well. So that's what really gets the conspiracies going.
Was it filmed in the same town?
It was filmed in the same town.
A lot of the people who were affected were the people who were like extras and all of that. And
yep, White Noise it was called, and it was filmed.
Not about ghosts, right? Not with Kevin Bacon.
Not with Kevin Bacon. That was Kevin Costner, homie.
Kevin Costner. Let's see. White Noise. Might have been Michael Keaton.
Maybe White Noise. I think it was Kevin Costner. Is about his dead wife and trying to communicate with her.
That sounds. There's like a lot of movies called White Noise. Then.
Yeah.
Movie.
All right. So White Noise, the one that we're talking about, was filmed entirely in Northeast Ohio.
Michael Keaton, homie, 2005. But anyway, we're talking about the 2022 version. So yeah, okay.
So East Palatine, and actually some of the residents that are dealing with the train derailment were actually extras in that film about the train derailment and the chemical spill and the cloud and it raining and everything getting destroyed and the river, and it's about consumerism. And so it was pretty crazy that most of the people in East Palestine were extras in the movie that basically mirrored their life.
Small world.
Yeah, I know. But it's basically a remake off an author, Don DeLeo, I apologize, 1985 novel of the same name, White Noise. And it won the National Book Award for Fiction that year in 1985. So if you want to get really crazy with the red string, 1985 is a book about, control. And
1984.
Oh, shit.
So there's 1 year difference, but
I fucked up.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I was trying to be real clever there, and thanks for putting me back in my place. I appreciate it.
Connected to the Manchurian Candidate real quick. Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier is definitely
where he's a Russian sleeper agent, basically, who they give him a word and have a metal arm, and he's Captain America's best friend. Oh, I remember one more, but I didn't watch the full movie, but Enemy of the State, Will Smith.
But that movie with Gene Hackman and Enemy of the State, that was pretty cool. And it was just basically about how they basically watch us on our cell phones.
Yeah, it was the whole like Patriot Act in play. Mm-hmm. Oh, it also, I guess, connecting to that other one, really quick. I keep sort of
bounce back and forth. We got
with
time.
It happened in the movie, then it happened with the same people who kind of were filming for it. On 9/11, right, going to golden oldie, on the morning of 9/11, they were actually conducting a drill where a very similar thing was supposed to be happening in this drill, so that when they were actually going through it, they were like, "This is the drill, right?" And then it just sort of happened. So there was some.
Oh, dude, how fucked up is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. Which kind of is like this guy, where you said the same. Not people, they were just townsfolk who were, hey, I'm pretending that there was a big train disaster that happened outside on this train here and it affected my house. And it's like, oh man, now this train thing happened and it's affecting my house and they just blew it up and it smells and I think the water's dirty and I don't want to be here.
Right. No, dude, it's all messed up, dude. And like and this could be coincidence, but like a lot of conspiracy theorists are going to the fact that the train company and the Netflix are owned by the same parent company. So, and that's, at this point, the whole country and the world is owned by like 15 corporations. So the chances may be.
So we talk about controlled train demolitions, because that reminds me of another movie where that happened with a
Which
Mr.
one was
Glass.
that?
Can you guess this one with a
okay,
Mr.
fair enough. I've been putting you through
it. Mr. Glass was making the trains crash because
you gave me Mr. Glass. I got it. Unbreakable.
Yeah.
So what's the conspiracy with that one?
Well, yeah, I just remember he basically playing a supervillain, but he was making the trains crash on purpose. So he was doing it just to find the Mr. Unbreakable. But
I do like that universe.
That's what the conspiracy is must be hinting at, is that the Netflix companies are trying to make the trains crash because
they want to find the next Unbreakable Bruce Willis. I mean, Bruce Willis is sick right now, so they need to find the next one.
Well, I think, okay, so going back to the weaponizing weather and weaponizing train disasters. I mean, I'm sure there's segments of this population, right? We're so divisive, Republican, Democrats, who could believe that if there's, say, a tornado that happened in a red state, that who knows if that was God, or if that was the CIA that controls the weather machines, or if there was a train crash that happened in this state or that state, that it was, like, I think that's that's the scary danger is people will now start seeing it's not just the god out there, it's the Illuminati, it's the man or whatever. Like, that's
Yeah, it's whoever they don't like at
Mhm.
the moment, right? Whoever the bad guy is.
And I think that's why it's sometimes good to have an entertaining movie behind it,
Yeah,
because if you don't see a movie where there's a Russian guy with an arm who can, rip your neck out and all that and kill your parents, then you might actually believe that's happening and be scared of that. Where versus
sure.
you, this was a very entertaining Captain America movie that I
So okay, so this is getting back to my point where like I think conspiracy theories are, in fact, conspiracy theories themselves, right? Where it's just like, where it's like, oh yeah, so why do you think that Winter Soldier is a prevalent character, and because it's like, oh, that's bullshit. That could never happen. That sounds like Winter Soldier, bro. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, that's what it sounds like, doesn't it?
Bro,
They
it's
made
made a
it.
comic book. It's like that's what the idea was, real life, Holmes.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, they put out the comic books to cover their tracks, man.
Because we do have metal armed people and
Dude,
legs and things.
I say that the next 15 minutes we just go down our into our deepest depths of ourselves and become stoner conspiracy and try to one up each other. How do you feel about that for the next 5 minutes?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm kind of already there. It's
Do you know that Gumby is actual a psyop where like Pokey and Gumby actually represent like the both political parties, and like Gumby's like a Democrat, but like Pokey's like the Republican, and the blockheads are the masses, man. And that's really, where all this comes from is we've been indoctrinated from Gumby into just following the two-party system, man. As far as it goes with some of these theories, you guys got to get a little bit more media literate and just understand that not everything. Give me two angles, right? Like give me three angles. Yeah.
Give me Kevin Costner selling it to me.
Yeah. If Kevin Costner tells me it's true, I'll believe
5 words
it.
to left, back into the left.
Yeah, back into the left.
Like
yeah.
Sell
I need someone I can trust. I need someone I can trust.
Award. No, not Academy Award. They don't even mean much anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I would still like one, but whatever.
Too.
Anyway, well, I guess that's been it. Follow us on Instagram, follow the show. We enjoy it. So help us enjoy it more by selling you advertisements down the road here. So love you guys. We'll talk to you later. This has been the Theory of Conspiracy. Rolando, anything else for him?
No, just follow me on the social medias, Ro, Lando. Listen to some music, some opinions, things like that, some performances. But yeah, we'll talk. We'll keep keeping it weird and stay on the fringe, man.